Hello, class of 2020, and welcome to your commencement. I am Pat Moulton, and I'm the president here at Vermont Technical College, and it is my pleasure to be with you today. First, let me start by introducing the platform party that is with us today. Dr. Anna Guyette is our Dean of Academic Affairs. Also, Dr. Kelly Campbell, our Chief Technology Officer. Jason Enzer is our Dean of Students. Maureen Hebert is our Associate Dean of Industrial Relations and Workforce Development. And Susan Fredette from the Vermont Tech Alumni Association and Assistant Director of Admissions. And Dave Rubin is our Associate Dean of Administration. Thank you all for being here today. And to the class of 2020, congratulations for getting to this day. Your hard work and persistence is what got you here. Wow, did it take us a while to get to this ceremony. A long and winding road, to say the least. And I am very sorry we are not together in person under the big tent on the Randolph Center campus, handing your diploma, surrounding you with your faculty to congratulate you, hosting your family and friends to cheer you on, and watching your kids say, "Congratulations, Mommy and Daddy." We are missing those special moments that are a Vermont Tech commencement ceremony, but COVID-19 had a different plan. We imagined so many different plans for how today could go. In the end, we chose the path that presented the least risk to you, your families, and the Vermont Tech family. Definitely not our first choice, and certainly not yours. To be clear, you are a unique graduating class, not just with today's ceremony, but also for all the significant uncertainty you dealt with in your last semester here. It was March 12th when you all got word we would be transitioned to remote delivery, and we sent you all home for an extended spring break. You had to leave at a moment's notice. The world was changing daily. You had to pivot to different plans multiple times in the semester. You had to keep up and wait to get your things from campus for months. You had to keep focused on your studies while juggling moving, remote learning away from the classroom, missing the benefit of face-to-face discourse with your peers and instructors, and of course, missing your friends and colleagues you had spent the last 1, 2, or 4 years with. You had to miss many of the social aspects that are very much a part of a college education. And you persevered and succeeded. You have graduated from college. Frankly, this perseverance required courage. You could have said, "I can't do this, I'm done." But you didn't. You hung in there and completed your program. As a result, you have demonstrated your adaptability and resiliency. You may not feel that way, but you showed how resilient you really are. Living with uncertainty is a skill not all of us possess, but a skill we can all learn. You have demonstrated that you have learned that along with your course content. Congratulations, class of 2020. Adaptability, critical thinking, and the ability to work autonomously are valuable skills that will help you throughout your life and career. These are skills you had to employ this last semester. You had to reach out for assistance in new ways, use technology in new ways. Perhaps you had to do your lab work at home with a kit and no lab partner. You had varying degrees of connectedness with faculty and other supports. You learned to be autonomous and creative. I remember clearly the picture a student posted on social media and tagged the college. He was completing his math homework while taking a break from work in his Bobcat. Some of you were learning wherever you could, in the basement or the attic of your house, or in the car at the closest Wi-Fi hotspot you could find. And you were successful, completing difficult programs here at Vermont Tech despite all those challenges. Well done, class of 2020, congratulations. And if tradition has continued, most of you are already employed as well. You graduated into an economy rocked by COVID, but with the experience and credentials that will stand out in a crowd. You are also graduating at a time of great change in this country, not just due to COVID, but also due to the awakening in this country around racism and the need for equal treatment. Equal treatment is more than under the law, but in practice and behavior of us as humans. Given the careers you are all about to embark upon, you will likely experience job security, decent wages, and more, and the advantages that a good education brings. You will assume leadership positions at work and in your communities. So I ask you, as this next generation, to remember our history and to think about privilege. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination based on race, religion, color, or national origin in public places, schools, and employment. That was just 56 years ago, my friends. And the older you get, you will realize what a short time that really is. I was 5 when that law passed. In my lifetime, your parents' lifetime, or perhaps your lifetime, it was okay to make a black person sit in the back of the bus, or use separate water fountains, and to bar them from restaurants, classrooms, or neighborhoods. Just 56 years ago. Sure, we abolished slavery many years before, but we have not treated Indigenous and people of color equally. And Indigenous and people of color are still fighting for economic equality and equal treatment. To quote Leon Litwack, a Pulitzer Prize-winning historian from Berkeley, California, while the Civil Rights Act struck down the legal barriers, it failed to dismantle the economic barriers. Professor Litwack cites school segregation as a victory of law, but a disappointment in reality. Litwack writes about how the exodus of whites from the cities to the suburbs in the 1970s changed the struggle from keeping blacks out of public schools to keeping whites in. By 2000, more than 70% of African Americans attended schools where they and other non-whites were the majority. And more than 1/3 attended schools with the enrollment is between 90 and 100% black. Current statistics illustrate a huge gap between black and white Americans in housing, childcare, life expectancy, infant mortality, and COVID infection rates. Litwack cites that unemployment amongst blacks is double that of whites. The poverty rate of black Americans is double the national rate, and 50% of the nation's prisoners are black. It all adds up to a rather grim chronicle of a people on the periphery as the United States remains, in critical ways, 2 separate societies, separate but unequal, Litwack offered in his article entitled Failed Promise of the Civil Rights Movement. Here in Vermont, we've long embraced equality and independence. We were an independent republic for 14 years, leaving Quebec and eventually joining the US as the 14th state in 1791. We were the first in the nation to abolish slavery in 1777. Vermont was active in the anti-slavery movement before the Civil War. We were part of the Underground Railroad, which enabled slaves to escape to Canada. However, just a year ago, a black lawmaker stepped down from her elected position due to harassment in her community. She did not feel equal. Just this month, a few weeks ago, an African-American activist in Rutland revealed the harassment she and her family are receiving, such that they are having to move their residence to an undisclosed location. In Vermont, our neighbors. At this college, students of color have been stared at, mocked, and not supported at all. It was painful for me to hear one of these students tell me that they like the college, but the people not so much, not so friendly. The people being referred to, my friends, is us, Vermont Tech people. Seems we really do not know what white privilege means. It doesn't only mean privilege in the economic sense. I'm talking about the privilege of not being stared at, the privilege of not being harassed, the privilege of walking across campus without fear, the privilege of walking in your neighborhood without fear, the privilege of feeling part of something, of being welcomed and respected for who you are and not the color of your skin, the privilege of being treated like you belong. Whether you know it or not, as Vermonters, we are privileged. We live in communities that are mostly safe and healthy. Vermont's history tells us of times when we Vermonters used our privilege to try to extend it to others, and we need to do that again. I recall when I was 16 and my parents took my brother and I to Bermuda on vacation at a friend's condo. One Saturday, while my dad played golf, my mom and brother and I went to the beach. It was a gorgeous day, and the beach was packed as far as the eye could see. And we were the only white people as far as the eye could see. I admit to feeling very out of place, alone, but for my family. After a while, a group of folks were playing volleyball in front of us, and my brother and I were asked to join in. They could have just let us be there without inviting us, but by doing so, they made us feel welcomed, like we belong there. We have to try to understand, to be more accepting, to be more welcoming. We are frankly counting on you to be these change agents. Us mature folks have had our chance and frankly not gotten the job done. We need you to lead the way to a more equal, just, and accepting place and people. We need to walk the walk of getting rid of racism, not just talk about it. You must and you can. You have demonstrated your ability to adapt and persevere. Take it to the next level and persevere through racism. You can do that too. You are knights, after all, graduates of Vermont Technical College, and you're now joining 153 years of prior Vermont Tech grads who have left here to go on to wonderful careers as wonderful people. Careers and people that help change the world. You will change the world for your patient or your client or the family of a beloved pet or your farm or your firm or your business or your community or state. I am confident, given the amazing things Vermont Tech grads have accomplished, that you too will do that. Vermont Tech does power Vermont and the region with some fantastically talented graduates. And now you join their ranks. Be ambassadors for Vermont Tech. Represent us well. And don't forget where you started. Wherever your career takes you, remember the start you received from Vermont Tech. And tell others. Tell your kids. Tell your grandkids. We will be here for your kids and your grandkids to give them the launch you enjoy. Congratulations, class of 2020. You surely earned it.
I would like to give a warm and generous welcome to each and every one of you as part of Vermont Technical College's graduating class of 2020. While I didn't imagine that we all be here doing this commencement through video online, it is still our ceremony and it is still our moment in history, because moments like these only come once in a lifetime. Being real about the current circumstances we face today, this may not be what we wanted, and it may not be the most ideal outcome given the health situation around the world, but we are here nevertheless. It is because we are strong, and it is because we've adapted. I come to you not in pride or in ignorance, but in genuine humility and with a clear consciousness of my actions and my flaws along with it. A clear consciousness that is aware of the reality of what must be done to handle and defeat a virus such as COVID-19. Like most people, I would have never believed that our generation would experience a global pandemic, a pandemic to the likes that hasn't been seen in over a century. Not since the Spanish flu of 1918 has anyone alive witnessed this today. Like most people, I would have never believed how this pandemic would set forth in motion historical events to occur, events that would lead to a great awakening here in America and to that around the world. I was deceived from believing that humanity and modern medicine would have evolved past any virus or disease in the present and in future generations to come. I was wrong. Just like humanity, the spread of viruses and diseases have evolved and adapted with us. But it is not over, and it is not lost, no matter how anyone feels about the world today. The pandemic has affected everyone in ways nobody could have ever foreseen. Being a resident of New York, I can testify that our state was at one point the epicenter of the spread of COVID-19. Millions of people got sick, lost their jobs, and lost their livelihoods. Scores of people were dying from the virus on a daily basis. It got severe to a point where doctors at hospitals were considering who to take off the ventilators because there weren't enough ventilators for everyone. It is a tragedy like no other. And unlike what some say, and considering how quickly the virus metastasizes, COVID-19 is not a hoax. It cannot in any way be compared to the flu because it is not the flu. It is a deadly, invisible adversary that kills without mercy or discrimination. It changes lives, it changes households, and it even brings nations down to their knees. But COVID-19 will not defeat us. We will defeat it as we have defeated pandemics of the past. The protests over the death of George Floyd opened my eyes widely to an issue I thought we as human beings had overcome. I thought that everybody was equal under the law and equal with each other. I was wrong. Floyd's death struck a nerve with me like no other. And while it may seem that his life wasn't perfect, like anyone else, he was a human being. No human being, no matter who they are or what they've done in life, deserves to have their neck pressed upon by someone else's knee. No one deserves that, to a point where I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy. Whether bound, helpless, begging for mercy or not, no one should ever have to suffer like that. While George Floyd's death was a tragedy that woke America up, it is also not the only problem. Problems like black-on-black crime are more commonplace than anyone likes to admit or acknowledge. They are tragedies that I strongly feel get ignored more than most. But when you look at the origin of a lot of these crimes, you find they are significantly onset by the poverty that a lot of communities face, as well as elements of the new Jim Crow that is prevalent in our country's justice system. Poverty isn't solely related to the struggle of money. Poverty can also encompass the social and cultural gaps in an entire civilization. Poverty can change people in ways that do not reflect positive outcomes. It can change an individual. It can change families. It can change the temperament and culture of an entire society to a negative and dark atmosphere like no other. The opportunities to succeed in life under poverty are diminished greatly when you're living in it, and people trying to get out struggle very fiercely. Poverty can even cause people to lose hope. I know this because I was living in poverty before I studied at Vermont Tech. Vermont Technical College was an experience like no other. As an older student studying at a college in Vermont where the societal culture of the state was much different than what I was accustomed to, the challenges to overcome were almost too great to bear. I began my tenure into VTC at the age of 25. Unlike most students, we're straight out of high school at the ages of 18, 19, and even 17 because of the VAST program. I was uncomfortable around other people. I felt I wasn't prepared to meet the requirements for my courses and was constantly in fear of failing everything I worked hard for. It took both a strong sense of courage and a stout heart and mind to doubly focus my efforts to succeeding in my studies. But not just in my studies, for it was also to work through the challenges I faced when working with people who were different than me. Like many other places, there will always be people who will never acknowledge you and people who always try to bring you down in whatever way possible, even if you have never transgressed against them or caused them harm in any way. I had to stand up to a lot of people who felt they could do that to me. But it was not over, and it never was. In quoting a controversial philosopher from Germany in the 19th century, Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "That which does not kill a man will only make him stronger." It was not easy by any means to reflect upon these words, but nevertheless, I took them to heart and I pushed forward. In doing so, not only did I find the motivation to succeed, but I took in knowing that this small piece of wisdom is the reason that I now have not only one, but 2 degrees from Vermont Technical College. I pushed beyond what I thought was the edge of my boundaries and have accomplished what I thought to be impossible. Vermont Technical College will do that to a person. It will instill a sense of dedication and perseverance like no other in them. It is why graduates of this institution are extremely successful in their careers and will continue to do so. I say to you, graduates, you have a responsibility as stewards of your generation to be accountable for yourselves as well as each other. Not in a way that reflects the cancel culture that is widespread in America, but in ways that create a positive influence into that which creates a learning experience for everyone involved. While it is okay to agree to disagree, let us not call ourselves wise and all-knowing for this day and age. For our freedoms as Americans come at a great cost, a cost that we don't always see at face value. Instead, let ourselves be called foolish so that we may, in earnest effort, learn from each other and grow. Let us not repeat the history of our past, because while social division is part of the human condition, it is also a choice. We as a human race must work hard and work together to set aside our differences so we may live in peace and harmony with one another. We as Americans and human beings now more than ever must work together if we are going to beat COVID-19 and racism, because both of them will not disappear by themselves. That is a fact of life, and we must bear with it in order to overcome and achieve true peace and progress for the future. As we look to that which awaits us, whether we choose to seek it or not, we must remember what it means to be the alumni of Vermont Technical College. Because we build the bridges, because we write the software, because we fix the vehicles, because we extinguish the fires, because we assist and heal our patients, human or animal, and because we solve the problems that make up the complex demands of modern civilization. Let our graduating class become the shining beacons of hope for that civilization. Let us never stop fighting for peace and for wisdom around the world. And most of all, let us, as graduates, become the pathfinders that blaze every trail into the future. It is because responsibility and self-accountability to this great nation of ours, their words alone will not determine that future. For words alone are forever a dead and forgotten witness. It is through action that our words and dedication gain sustenance, and as a result, our successes become evidently clear to all. Because in truth, the sky is a limit, and all you have to do is reach for it. I am genuinely proud of all of you, no matter who you are. I am proud of those friend and adversary alike. I am proud to call myself an alumnus of Vermont Technical College, and I hope you do too. A great future awaits all of you, because all you have to do is believe in yourselves. No matter what you feel you are capable of in life, no matter what obstacles are in your way, reach out for what matters most, and you will succeed in accomplishing the impossible. Because you can, and because you are Vermont Technical College, the small college with big outcomes. Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Susan Fredette from the Vermont Tech Alumni Association.
Thank you, Pat. As you prepare to receive your diploma, let me be the first to welcome you, the soon-to-be graduates of the class of 2020, to the Vermont Tech Alumni Association. I encourage you to call on your fellow alumni as you pursue your career goals. We look forward to being an active member of the association.
And now the good part. On the recommendation of the faculty of the college and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the Vermont State College System and the state of Vermont, I confer upon you Bachelor of Science, Associate of Applied Science, or certificate with all the honor, rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereto. I declare you the graduates of the Vermont Tech Class of 2020. Congratulations, and you may now move your tassels.